Welcome to Real Estate Success DFW, the podcast where top producing agents from Dallas-Fort Worth come together to share their stories and strategies behind their success. I'm Sean Corbett, your host, and with over 300 million sold in the local real estate market and the honor of being best at the multiple times, I know what it takes to make it in this market. Each episode, we're going to dive into the world of real estate, learning from the very best in the industry. If you're ready to level up your game, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome again to Real Estate Success DFW. Right now, I have got a superstar with me, Raymond Sjolseth, and he is with a couple things. He and I know each other actually through an online platform where we've had some success, and he's got a ton of success. In one particular space, he's got his show, Debt and Equity, which he allowed me to be a part of a month ago. And I'm super excited to see when that episode comes out. And he is also really heavily involved in other spaces, but to keep it kind of simple and concise, he is a real estate advisor. I try to keep all my space and guests all around the real estate advising space. So he is a perfect guest for us. How are you doing, Raymond?
I'm doing great, Sean. Thanks for having me today. I'm super excited to be here.
Well, awesome. Well, let's jump in. I always like to start with a little few background things. How long you've been doing real estate? How long you've been working in real estate?
Yeah, so I guess it's kind of a trick question. I've been in real estate for 32 plus years, but I've spent most of that as an investor while building physical products. And when COVID hit, I had to pivot and just went all in on everything real estate.
So it was about the time that COVID hit. That was your focus, hyper focus. And I know you're pretty heavily in the multifamily space. It's one of your real unique niches. Where you and I connected is you have a partner that you work with on a platform called School. And mainly the people that are part of that platform are generally residential real estate agents, is what it looked like to me.
Correct.
Is that about what your target is? And it's been fantastic. You have a Thursday morning product. What do you call it? Coffee time?
Virtual coffee.
That's right. Virtual coffee. You've been doing this.
We've been running that for 5 years.
5 years. And you have a huge group in that space. It's pretty incredible. I've done a lot of different networking communities and stuff like that, and I've rarely come across one that's, one, as established as that is, and two, have such a consistent amount of people, that come and be a part of it. Why do you think that you have such consistency in a number of people that jump in? What's one or two things that take away that might help others that are building online communities?
Yeah, so that particular group you're talking about, it's a Facebook group. We have 335. I think it started as a referral group and it stayed as a referral group, but we offer so much value. We do the Thursday virtual coffees. We offer webinars, typically Mondays and Thursdays. We really curate our guests so that any agent who decides to join one of our workshops, platforms, training, courses, coffees, they're delivered quality versus quantity, right? Like there's a lot of Facebook groups out there, some of them better than others. The one thing we're really proud of at the end of the day is the community that we've built. We have a community of awesome agents that's joined us.
Do you have a lot of them that step in and kind of act in a leadership role or take on and help grow, or is it just primarily you and your partner that do all of it?
Yeah, there's my partner, Debbie, and I. We have a couple VAs that work with us. And then we have inside our real estate organization, if you will, we have a lot of people that step up and offer to be admins or moderators to help us out.
Another thing I like to always try to talk about is things that are really important to you. And one of the things that your show brought out was talking about a low point or an area where you did not have success, right? And I remember doing the interview with you, we talked about failure, where that kind of bottom point was, where I had to make a decision to turn around. Well, I'm going to put that back on you. So we've got moments in your professional career, and you and I have talked about some of these things, some of the businesses that you've been involved in. Where do you feel like, how has failure been an impact or a part of your success now?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I think that, we're all born into an environment. We don't get to choose that. And those environments are different for everybody. For me, I was born into an environment where I was constantly in survival. And I think that's what made me entrepreneurial. And since 15, I started my own company. I was installing car audio before I could even drive, and got into the car market, aftermarket performance, started my own shop, Used to build before Pimp My Ride, West Coast Customs, all those guys. That's what I was doing, right? Building custom cars for a lot of celebrities in and around the Los Angeles area. And that led to meeting a lot of wealthy people, meeting a lot of influential people, and learning what they're doing, what works, what doesn't work, understanding authenticity, understanding just, that LA culture, if you will, growing up in Los Angeles. Now I'm in Chicago. And I've had 45 plus companies. 40 of them have failed. 5 have done well. 3 of those were sold privately. 2 of them were taken public. Failure was not an option for me. Like, I feel tenacious and pretty fearless to keep going, but it's a decision. And failure is my fuel. Not everybody can do that, but I've chosen to turn that into my fuel to keep going and building. COVID was a perfect example. I got crushed in 2020, had to pivot, had to make changes, and had to make a new plan. And it's not easy, right? With kids and everybody at home and lots of stuff happening, lots of dynamics in a household, it's hard to make that choice.
Yeah, failure is one of those things that can make or break you, right? I mean, there's plenty of people that they try a few things, they fail, and they're out, right? They just can't move forward. They can't grow from it. They can't say, well, that didn't work that way, but maybe we try it next time this way, right? I always say, it's one of those fun sayings, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Or you say, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
Yes.
And that's a really important component as far as failure. Failure is a really good teaching. It's a lifestyle. It's a way to learn from things in order to better, prepare yourself for the future. And I bet when things get thrown at you now, you immediately can start seeing those signs. Well, that's not going to work. And it's because I've lived that before. And getting ahead of that can really help build something more effective going forward. I mean, ask you, Ray, would you rather work with someone that's never tried or failed in something, or someone that's failed a lot and they're ready to step back into the arena and try again?
Yeah, hands down, somebody who's failed a lot, right? Somebody that's moved past that fear and has the drive to try again and do better the second time around, or the third time around, or the 10th time around, whatever it is.
Sure. A lot of people use MJ as a place to kind of a platform because he's one of the greatest NBA players of all time. But I think he's missed more shots than he made.
Yeah, of course.
And I think he had 27 game-ending shots that he missed. We don't talk about that when we talk about MJ, right? I mean, it's just one of those things, right? Because he took that opportunity and, you learn a little something each time you fail to have a higher probability of success the next time.
Yes.
What do you say when I tell you the word awareness? What does that come to mind?
I think that's understanding yourself. And, that's something that I don't think a lot of people put the time into, right? Because again, we're born into our environment, and then there's expectations had by our family, by our siblings, by our extended family. Then we go through a school system that's programmed you to just do what you're supposed to do, to get a certain outcome, graduate high school, go to college, get a good job, all that good stuff. And I think the world that we live in today, more than ever, that doesn't work anymore. It doesn't mean it doesn't apply, because I want an engineer to go to college. I want an architect to be educated and know how things structurally work, right? All of these things matter. But I think if you're unaware of who you are, why you are, where you are, and what drives you, like where your North Star is, if that makes sense, it's easy to get lost. And I think a lot of people in the world today, specifically, that we live in, are lost, right? They're just robots walking through life versus making intentional decisions to do something different and build something better for themselves and their family.
Yeah, like you and I have kids. I think we have that in common, where we have a fuel of energy that we want to give more back to them in time and ourselves. And sometimes you have to put in a lot of effort outside of that space to create those opportunities for the future, right? I mean, that's a real important, component of what we do, and why we are trying to build as big and fast as we can to have, I kind of think about, scalability and efficiency. Like, I really want to focus on putting in time where there is good quality return, and not just me making widgets, right? I want to have a make once, make money many. And that's an important, especially with you in multifamily and spaces like that. We're not trying to be the guy that's out there selling everything. What would you say if I told you the word focus? How is that something that's important to you?
Yeah. So I think prior to COVID, I thought I had my act together, right? With managing time and family and all that good stuff. And I know you can't manage time. We manage our attention, and our attention consumes time. But again, the gift that COVID gave me was having to refocus. And with 5 kids at home, one of them special needs, losing her therapy services, and having to rebuild, I didn't have 60 hours a week to produce anymore and work. I had 15 to 20 if I was lucky. So, there's that saying, like, the bigger the desk you have, the more crap you're going to pile on it. So if you shrink your desk down, you have less stuff on it and less distractions. So that's what I did. That's what I did with everything that I was working on: coaching, podcast, books, real estate, projects, consulting gigs. I just started paring everything down. And I found that the more I focused, the better I felt. And that less really is more. So the question I ask myself whenever I'm doing something is, how can I simplify this? Right? Or how can I do less and get the same result? And what is the 20% that I'm going to input to drive the 80% output? So I'm focusing on those tasks. So on a daily basis, for example, Sean, you and I have kids, like you said, right? So my production hours are 9 to 3. I have 6 hours, 5 days a week, and opportunistic or on demand on weekends, depending upon the situation and kid schedule. So I choose 3 things every day to focus on between 9 to 3. That's going to get me 80% of the results that I'm looking for. And that's what I'm doing.
Man, that's really concise. I like that a lot. I can relate. We're talking, you're saying things that, in our space, real estate agency, they don't believe. They believe that you are a victim to your customer and you are available anytime they need something. I work the exact same schedule. Hearing you say that is kind of funny for me. I work roughly 9 to 3 pretty consistently. I get up at 5. I do all my workout. If you want to work out, you got to work out before your kids wake up. I mean, really, especially if you have small kids. So that's the only way I can work out. I get up at 5, I do all that, and then I get all my kids taken, I take my showers, do all that stuff. I'm at office probably about 8:30 to 9 every single day, and I am hyper concentrated. I don't work out of my garage. I don't work out of my living room. I work at an office, and I'm hyper focused on specific tasks. And I like that you've built it into a concise way of looking at it. I have 3 things I'm going to do today that's going to be and cover the 80% of what I want to get done. It's just it's a mindset, right? You really get hyper focused on things that are going to make the biggest production with the least amount of effort. That's clever. Very good.
Well, it's a choice, right? And, I'm not an email fan. I don't like email because I feel like email is always somebody else's agenda and it's a distraction. It's a necessary evil because it's how we communicate. It's how we get contracts. It's how we get notifications. But I check my inbox once a day. That's it. And the way my inbox is set up is that if I have a relationship with you and we're doing anything together, you're in my CRM and it shows up on my activity list in my CRM, right? I'm not just using Outlook to aggregate all of my emails and then comb through them. They need to be specific. If you need something from me, I'm happy to give it to you, right? But I don't want to go through everybody else's stuff.
That's fascinating. So you even clean out and organize your emails. I am a victim of email. I'm a victim. Oh. I get hundreds every day.
No, if I showed you my email box, it is not organized. I have like 172,000 unread messages.
Yeah.
They're unimportant, right? If you're emailing me, hey, Ray, I need your signature on this deal so we can close. Great. You're in my CRM. I'm going to see that come in and say, hey, Sean needs my signature. No problem. I'll get that done. But I don't care about the other 20 newsletters I subscribe to, right?
Yeah, two things. I actually got me a clean out system. So I have unsubscribed from 1,600 email lists that I was in, 1,600.
Oh, man, I need that. Send that over.
Yeah, clean email. And I'll send it to you just for the people watching. Clean email is a program. And that's one of the things that I add. I haven't started my official process to get my class up, but my next class is going to be on scalability. And one of them is effectively managing your email system as a part of the efficiency model. But yeah, my email slowed way down whenever I finally went through and I had to click through each one of them. And then all the ones that I get lots of emails from wholesalers and people like that. So I just throw them in my wholesale bucket automatically. So all of them go to my wholesale bucket, and all the ones that are my builders, I've been working with a lot of builders, all the builders go into my builder bucket. And when I need builder needs, I'll go to my builder bucket and I'll look at what they've set and provided. The second thing is, and this is another kind of, I've got a list of probably about 7 or 8 counterculture to agency. And another one that I have, one was 9 to 3. You can control when you go and show homes. You can control when you negotiate contracts. Most of real estate should be done Monday through Friday. On the weekends, the only thing you're doing is showing, and you can hire someone. You can assign that out. But the other thing is, I don't have a CRM. I get a referral every day of the week. I have about 800 in my primary database of sphere of influence. It took me a long time to put all this together. I'm just giving you the end result of where I am today, and which that creates a referral every day. So I average about 7 to 8 closings a month on referrals. Means I only work with people that know, like, and trust me. And that makes that I don't have to sell anything. I don't do listing presentations. I don't do buyer rep agreements. I just send it to them when we're ready to start working. I don't have to sell it to them. And when I say I don't have a CRM, CRMs are designed for cold clients, not warm clients. And cold clients, we use a CRM to get them to warm. Once you have a warm client, you don't need to send them stuff. You have a relationship. So that's some other counterculture things that I've been kind of thinking through. So we're going to learn from each other. I'm stealing all your stuff. I hope you can learn something kind of the way I'm thinking about things too. I'm really big on efficiency. So I love some of your thoughts on that. We can't talk forever, so let's keep rolling on this, okay? Next one I've got is, you talked about how do you rebuild? You were kind of getting into that. Do you feel like you covered that space when you're talking about, you fail, now what do you do, right? Or when COVID hit, now what am I going to do? You talked about rebuilding, and you have specific things that you make sure is a part of your system. You talked about downsizing your desk. Anything else you want to add on that topic?
Yeah, I think rebuilding is a decision that you have to make, right? Like, it takes a lot of courage, and you have to allow yourself, look, when you have loss, you have to grieve, right? So it's the same when you lose a business or you lose a deal. It's okay to take that time to have the awareness to, like, work through your feelings of being upset or pissed off or angry or whatever it is. And that was something that I never allowed myself to do historically. And when COVID happened, I hired some coaches to do different things. I hired a strength coach. I hired a mindset coach. I hired a trauma coach to help me work through some stuff from childhood that I thought I had handled. I hired a money mindset coach. And, even though I couldn't afford it, I didn't have a choice. I had to invest in myself to drive awareness and say, hey, what's happening with me? And how do I understand what's going on so I can make better decisions for the future? And how do I build something differently? And I also, I spent 32 years making products. I've made 450 different products across 12 different vertical markets, okay, while being a real estate investor on the passive side. And a lot of those real estate deals funding my businesses over time. Now that I'm all in on real estate, and the beautiful thing about real estate is that you can have a lot of income streams, all from different things, right? Investment ownership, fix and flip, coaching, downline models, podcast revenue, show revenue, sponsorship, Facebook groups, and the list goes on and on. All of these things were a decision to rebuild, right? 5 years ago, I had no audience, 0. Now I'm able to get to 1.2 million agents with a few clicks. Right? That was a decision to figure out, hey, I need to build something different. And historically, I was the engineer and marketer in the background. I was never the salesperson. Now I'm in front of the camera on a daily basis, right? Doing podcasts, doing shows, doing lives, doing coaching, getting in front of people, speaking, all of these different things. So rebuilding is a choice, but don't kid yourself. It takes courage. You have to be willing to make changes and do the heavy lifting.
Sure. I mean, there could be a lot of things that create that motivation. I always hear your why should be greater than their no. That's something I've heard a lot when you go through and you're talking to people and engaging them and you feel like they'd be a good fit and you're sharing it with them and they tell you no, that's okay. My why of where I'm going is greater than your no to whatever the opportunity is. I'm going to keep moving. And most people don't handle either rejection or failure well. I mean, either way, it's a hard thing to overcome. And I feel like, we haven't talked about confidence yet, but that's a real important component. And I feel like you really got to believe in yourself and believe where your gifts and talents are and where it's going to go, right? That's a really important part. I was going to ask you one thing. We're talking about college earlier. Would you, if I asked you if your goal is to come out and be successful or wealthy, and I'm just going to treat wealth as a means of success or a measurement, would you tell your kids if that was their goal to go to college or not go to college?
Well, so I think everybody has a place, right? So it completely depends on what their goal is. Let me answer the question without answering the question, if this makes sense, right? Like my oldest is 19, she'll be 20 this year. She's in her first year at an awesome university. It is very expensive. Of course, she has like student loans and all that crap, which we'll take care of later on. But if she said, hey, I'm not going to college, I'd be like, okay, what's your plan? Because she's a very academic child, right? Like she's very competitive, very academic. She was valedictorian, highest GPA in the school when she graduated. Amazing. So proud of her. I don't resonate with that at all. Like, I don't care. It means absolutely nothing to me. I'm proud of her, but it doesn't mean anything to me, right? Because that's not how I grew up and that's not where my strengths were. If another child came to me and said, hey, Dad, I want to graduate high school and then go travel for a year or two before I think about college, 100%. I love that because I think culture breeds creativity. And I do believe that imagination is greater than knowledge. So if they can expand themselves and increase their awareness in a 1 year or 2 year gap, and then say, you know what, I do want to go to college. I want to be a mechanical engineer or an industrial designer or whatever it may be.
They know more about themselves at that point, right? And you can't like go and finish college and then turn around and travel for a couple of years. That's a lot harder to do.
Well, and then things happen, right? You meet the love of your life, you get in a relationship, you get married, you get kids, which are all fantastic things. But that gap could teach somebody who they are early in their life versus figuring out in their late 30s, 40s, 50s, right? Like, how many people do we know that went to college and aren't doing anything related to the degree that they have? They just had to go to college and they had to choose something. So they picked psychology or marketing or communications, right? Or whatever it is. So I do think it is person dependent, right? So I just think college is a system, and it was a system designed to put people through it. And I don't like what it's done, right? Like, my goal with my kids is to teach them about, like, you have to make money. Okay. So if you're going to make money to have an easier life, let's call it, so many people are focused on, oh, I have to pay off my debt. I have to pay off my debt. Okay, sure. There's good debt. There's bad debt, yada, yada, yada. But what if you just learn how to create income streams, right? So if you graduate high school and, I don't know, you're really good at programming and you start consulting while you're traveling and you're, a freelancer while you're traveling and you're producing income. Maybe you discover something you love. Maybe you just cover your travel expenses. Maybe you can save some money because you want to go to college in a year or 2 years. But I'd much rather somebody, including my own kids, have the skill set to produce income and then figure out if college is right for them or not.
That's a good thought. I think about it just in the simplest terms. If I'm trying to produce wealth, unless it's a specifically required item, I don't know if there's really much value in that. You do learn something in college. I graduated twice. I got an MBA. I don't know if all the time I spent there really got the same benefit had I put it in other things or other opportunities and growth. I think I would have done better. I mean, I think I would have. And school I love. School's easy for me, but it doesn't give me that much more advantage. And I think you and I share that same sentiment. And college has obviously become something different today. It's become so, just make it about politics, but it's the purpose of it and where it's getting and with the information they teach you, a lot of it is totally zero worth to what we need to know in order for us to have, produce in society and actually contribute. There's a whole lot of things they teach you that are totally worthless, and I'd like to scrub a lot of that out of it too.
I mean, what would happen, Sean, if your kids graduated high school, went to real estate school, college, workshop, whatever for a year, and learned how to fix and flip houses, learned creative finance, and understood that if they just buy one investment a year for 10 years, it's going to completely change their whole life.
Yeah. They can do whatever they want. Anything they
Do
want to
whatever
do.
they want. Yep.
And they have enough net worth built doing that they can do anything that they want to do. They can go become a teacher. How about that? My wife's a teacher. I want to retire her from teaching, and she does not make enough to do the job that she does. But that would easily be replaced by having real estate. Or she could say, I want to keep teaching because I have real estate.
Right.
And she's safe, right? It's a safety net. Let me keep going because I know because you and I can talk about all these fun stuff because we have a lot of things in common. How do you ignore the naysayers?
Yeah, I think that there's a saying, I don't remember who said it or exactly how it goes, but it's like when you start getting hate, that's when you know you're doing something right, right? Like, I know if you follow Gary Vee or somebody like that, he says that stuff all the time. I think that goes back to confidence. And if you learn to believe in yourself and you're aware of what your strengths are, the naysayers will go away, right? They're guides. They're no different than driving down a road and you have guardrails. The naysayers are just the guys outside the guardrails yelling at you that aren't in the seat with the steering wheel wearing your shoes. And I think for me, when I started to like be public, so to speak, and get in front of the camera and put my podcast out there and stuff and, you know, contribute to YouTube and that kind of thing, the naysayers, they're just armchair experts at the end of the day, right? And if they're taking the time to have an opinion about something you're doing, sure, freedom of speech, everybody's right to share their opinion, but usually it's negative. It's not constructive. Sometimes it's a fair argument that's worth a conversation or debate, but 90% of the time it's not. And how do you ignore them? I think, again, it's a decision, but it also requires not to take things personally. And it took me years to have thick skin.
That's good advice. I really, I'm kind of new to Instagram and some of that space. I know I probably should be young enough. I should have been on it for years, but I've always built a sphere of influence. It's never been important to me. I wasn't trying to reach people I didn't know, like, or trust. I'd never really needed to, but now I've entered that space because I want to help and coach and build other agents and give them success. And in order to do that, I have to reach out into those spaces. So I started creating all these videos and stuff. And then I started commenting on all these different Instagram accounts. And it's shocking the amount of negative responses because I'm very logical. I watch what I see, and there's usually not enough context within the video for everyone to make all these assumptions. I'll give you one example. This one's probably going to give me some hate. I had a guy he had these terrible damage on his neck. And he said that his ex, on the way to getting divorced, jumped in the side seat and then kicked him into the window. Okay. And you could see the damage on his neck. It was bad. And my look at this is just the way I think about things. Well, how do we hear her side of the story? And you can imagine the amount of hate because now I'm blaming the victim. And I'm like, hey, I got to hear both sides. I can get on here and post the blame about, my wife didn't do this or my kids did this to me. Well, why don't we get their side of the story? And I don't do it because I don't think it's a fair context. But just hearing all the responses, it was just shocking to me. I was like, holy cow, I can't believe it. You guys, you'll make a lot of assumptions about these things. So anyway, I'm starting to create a lot more content. I'm just putting it out there. And it doesn't hurt my feelings, but I can understand why people would get on there. I'll never post again. They all said mean things to me. I'm going to get a lot more. I expect to be up to 10, 100,000 followers and get into that space. So I will. And it's good. As long as my why is greater than their no, or whatever really drives you is stronger than whatever their naysaying is, I think is effective.
100%.
What is a way to connect with you? How do you prefer people to connect that watch this video and really like what you have to share? Do you have a space that you want to promote?
Yeah, you can just go to my website, RaymondSjolseth.com. From there, you'll find a bunch of resources to join our Facebook group, join in our school platform. We got like 6 free courses. You can jump in there for lead gen, foundational content, all sorts of good stuff. You can just message me on Facebook. Just hit me up in Messenger.
Okay. And you've been easy for me to talk with and communicate. You've been very responsive.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to promote or share outside of just your website, how to connect with you? Anything like an event?
Sure. Yeah. We actually have a webinar this Thursday evening, and we're going to be talking about loss mitigation, right? So we're going to be talking about foreclosures, short sales, creative ways to structure things to help people for agents. So yeah, I mean, Sean, I don't know when you're dropping this, but this is like literally tomorrow that we're hosting this event.
Yeah. I think we're going to miss that from the drop because we usually post these every week. I'm probably about a month out.
Okay, cool.
you have other things that are coming. I know you do because I got the email on that one. So
Okay.
it wasn't scrubbed out and I didn't have my system, clear out your stuff, right?
Yeah.
But
So
it
just
later
join our
on,
newsletter. That's
Yep.
the best way to stay informed.
Join the newsletter.
Yep. We'll
Awesome.
put the link in the comments or description, whatever you do.
Well, Raymond, you've been one of my best I've had on. You've got a wealth of information, a lot of good experiences and stuff that we can all learn and grow from. Don't give up. There's a place for you. There's a spot. I know it's easier for a lot of us to say, forget the entrepreneurship stuff. I'll just go be an employee. Some of us, you might share this sentiment. It's another thing I usually say all the time is I'm not employable is the problem. I do so well, become so efficient that I don't even show up to my job and I always get fired. So I have that problem. I'm sure you probably don't want to be an employee again, but I think that there's always an opportunity for us to learn and grow. So I appreciate you jumping on, and yeah, we'll have this thing posted and hopefully we can help you out as well. Thank you.
I love it. Thanks for having me, Sean.
All right. Thank you. That wraps up another episode of Real Estate Success DFW. I hope you're leaving with new insights that push your real estate career forward. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with fellow agents who's ready to succeed. And if you're interested in working together or have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me directly. My personal phone is 214-228-0383. Let's connect and make real estate success happen together. Until next time, keep pushing forward. I'm Sean Corbett, and this is the Real Estate Success DFW. Have a high performance week.